All right, everybody, welcome back to another electric episode of the AFC Northcast. I'm Justin, your resident Browns fan, here as always joined by Steelers Chad, repping number 26.
Let's go, Yinzers.
And Ravens Joey.
So it's a business trip this week.
It's a business fucking trip, that's right. No antics, all business. But yeah, so if you're catching us live right now, we appreciate it. Thank you. We appreciate you and everything that you are. Every piece of you. If you're not, well, get with it. Tuesdays and Thursdays, we are live on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook Live. Join the conversation. Talk with us. Tell us what you think. Let us know if you think our picks are fucking stupid, and we'll let you know why you're stupid. So, if not, whatever, man. You can always catch us on the local, or not local, but wherever you get podcasts. But make sure, first, foremost, and above all, that you tell your friends, you tell your family, and you rate 5 stars, subscribe, all that business. Grow. We are growing. Something that we noticed we talked about in the last week or two. And we appreciate it. But let's continue to grow.
You could say we're growers, not showers.
Yeah, there you go. And
yeah, that was a dick joke.
We're planning on trying to do some cool stuff if we can get a decent community, like, opening up like a Discord chat and stuff so everyone can kind of just talk shit to each other. But we need to kind of build a community, guys. So tell people, get people listening, get people into Pigskin Pick'ems, that kind of stuff. It'll be good stuff. So with that, this episode is going to be the preview of NFL Week 5. Before we get into the games, though, what you guys drinking? Chad's pouring something nice and frothy.
I've got a nice... today in Raleigh, it was 100 degrees on October 3rd. So I've got a refreshing watermelon Gosa by Tarboro Brewing Company. That is in southern North Carolina. It's called Seed Spitter.
Nice. I am also drinking a refreshing beer by the name of Trace Amigo. It's a pale wheat ale by Upper Pass Brewing. Great little local Vermont brewery that delivers their beer to local convenience stores out of a pickup truck. They're pretty cool.
Cool.
I also did not get my beer off of Amazon Prime.
I will for now be. Anyways, that's inside joke, outside the podcast.
Justin's going to put an easy button in his fridge. He can slap and
whatever
automatically like a reorder beer.
Yeah. So, let's talk. What are we going to do next? Let's talk polls. Let's talk the polls from last week. So last week we talked about our AFC North offensive and defensive players.
Like to talk polls
of the weeks. Well, I just want to make sure that we don't forget it because we forget polls all the time.
I know,
but
that's, for those of you scoring at home, that's 2 dick jokes in 5 minutes to start the podcast.
I got you. I thought you were saying because
2 hours tantric.
Yeah, I thought you were saying that because the Browns won both polls. That's why I wanted to talk about them. But the AFC North Offensive Player of the Week was between Randy Fichtner, Fichtner. Sorry, I grew up with a kid named Fichtner that's spelled the same way. But anyways, that was the Steelers offensive coordinator, or Chubb/Jarvis. That's right, you could pick either of the two, but somehow this was a close vote.
Yeah.
54 to 46. All right, Steelers Nation showed up and tried to, but they were unsuccessful. I like, whatever. Just whatever.
I know that Chad was earnest when he nominated Randy Fichtner, even though he's not a player. But I voted for Randy Fichtner, and it was absolutely to troll. And then it ended up being a lot closer than I thought it was going to be.
Right.
It was a well-earned award. Nick Chubb had a great performance. Obviously, Randy Fichtner will not win the award this year because he reinvented offensive football for the NFL, and it wasn't enough.
Right. And the AFC North Defensive Players of the Week, we had Cam Hayward and Joe Schobert, much to the dismay of my fellow podcasters. But, yeah, Joe Schobert won 55 to 45.
Oh, come on.
So
he wasn't even the best player on his own team.
next week the poll's going to be who's the greatest linebacker of all time, Joe Schobert or Lawrence Taylor, and we'll see how the poll comes out.
Anyways, so there you have it. That's our polls. And yeah, man. So let's roll into AFC North news. Is that where you guys want to go?
Sure.
I just want to tell the listeners how disappointed I am in that. I thought that we made it very clear in the podcast that Joe Schobert didn't even deserve a nomination. I mean, come on, guys. We're helping educate you, but we know you come to this podcast as football savvy listeners, but you need to show it. Put your money where your mouth is and show us you know what you're talking about by not giving these full votes.
So even if Joe Schobert, in your opinion, was not the best on the team, that doesn't mean that he was not better than Cam Hayward. So, anyways, with that,
on its face, but he wasn't.
Let's move on to the news.
So some news. I've got a news topic to close. We talked about it last week, and everything kind of lingered on a little bit afterwards. The Marlon Humphrey OBJ kerfuffle in Baltimore last week. So the Ravens posted a slow motion, very high quality video basically to defend Marlon Humphrey. And even after posting a video where you can clearly see that first you see both hands and all you can see is the right hand because it's blocking the left hand full of Odell Beckham's jersey. And then it comes off and it still looks like he's got a hand up under the face mask and that hand is also full of jersey. So yeah, maybe like Marlon Humphrey's knuckles could have been like held against the throat. But the point of the hand was not actively choking Odell Beckham Jr. It was grabbing his jersey to grip him up. And then everybody in the media, and then you could tell that all these people didn't actually watch the video because after the video, people were talking about the video, ridiculing the Ravens, and trashing the ref that was standing there, how could the ref that was 3 feet away have a better view and idea of what's going on than all of us sitting at home watching on our televisions? All right. Whether or not Marlon Humphrey choked Odell Beckham Jr., I'm here for it. However, the straw man that everybody wants to build to get all butthurt about, I even heard someone say that a flag wasn't thrown on the Ravens on that play, which means they didn't watch the game at all or didn't research the game at all.
4 offsetting penalties.
Right. There was 2 penalties on each team, and OBJ and Marlon Humphrey each got one.
Right.
And I just needed to vent about it because I listened to another podcast today, Thursday, on my way to work, and they were still talking about, and it was this faux outrage about the travesty of justice on Odell Beckham Jr., who started some shit he couldn't finish and got deboed by Marlon Humphrey. So
hey, man, there's another game this year. I'm
done now. Yeah, maybe Marlon Humphrey will actually choke OBJ.
Maybe.
And then Freddie Kitchens, when he tells everybody to watch the video, maybe he could watch the video. Because the video shows that OBJ was not choked.
The more that my NFL could be like the WWE, the better.
Yeah.
All right. Any other news, Joey? Or let me say any real news?
Kind of. It depends on what you consider news. Today, the Patriots, this week, the Patriots put Steven Gostkowski, their kicker, on IR.
Ooh.
And to fill his shoes, they signed AFC North alumni Mike Nugent, who kicked for a long time for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's interesting. The Bengals, never mind. But, yeah, well, do you want to lead that into the Bengals game this week, I guess? Yeah, it's a good idea, guys.
Show.
All right,
Yeah.
so the
Could be a
Bengals
major
could be a major what?
influence on this game.
Yeah.
Who's going to kick for the Bengals? Will it be a one field goal game?
Yeah, right. So the Bengals are playing the Cardinals, in case you did not know. What time is that game at, guys?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
One on Sunday.
1 o'clock game on Sunday. So the Bengals have had a rough season. Let's not. That's to put it lightly so far. Their defense is kind of what we've seen from them consistently, right? It's what we've expect from them. They are who we thought they were, and they picked up where they left off last season and continued to, I guess, get worse. I don't know. But on the other side, though, you have the Cardinals, right? The Cardinals haven't necessarily been spectacular this year. There's been flare-ups and buzzes about Kyler Murray, but it hasn't been enough to really make it over any substantial amount of noise to really make anything ooh, Kyler Murray's the real deal. I haven't heard a lot of those conversations going around lately. So What do you guys think about the offensive matchup versus the Bengals defense?
I think the Bengals, we saw how vulnerable they are last week. David Johnson is a fantastic dual threat running back that can do some of the same things that James Conner and Jalen Samuels were able to do in that game. And then Drake Kirkpatrick, who is probably considered the Bengals' best corner, gave up the deep ball to Deontay Johnson. So the Cards are going to spread them out because that's what the Cards do. That's what Cliff Kingsbury's offense is. And I think their only hope would be the same thing as last week, except the Cards' offensive line is nearly on the level that the Steelers' offensive line is, as far as if they can ruffle the feathers of a young quarterback and force him to make mistakes. That's kind of their only shot to slow these guys down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that if you look at it really, really superficially, it looks really bad for the Bengals defense because the Cardinals like to run all these 4 wide receiver sets, and they just like to do all these things that make it really hard to put 11 defensive linemen on the field. 2 problems for Arizona, and by 2, I mean, I don't know how many I'm going to say. One of them is that Christian Kirk is not playing in this game, and he's basically considered their number 1 wide receiver, even though Larry Fitzgerald really is, but he's still a threat. He demands attention from defenses, and Larry Fitzgerald isn't as fast anymore. So with him not on the field, Arizona really only has 2 viable, serious candidates to break the game open. Larry Fitzgerald, which is unlikely, even though he'll probably catch 8 or 9 balls, and David Johnson. But once you take David Johnson out of the backfield, then you're not worried about the running game anymore, and you can unleash the pass rush. Kyler Murray is a dangerous runner athletically, but I don't think he's proven it mentally yet. He doesn't make great decisions yet about how to use his athleticism or his arm. So I actually think that even though from that 30,000-foot view, the matchup is bad for the Bengals, I think that with their really good pass rush, they could get him jittery. And, you get a little lucky and you play some even maybe basic zone defense. You might be able to rush him into some bad throws and, even though he's fast, get a few sacks going. Once he gets hit by a couple of those guys, he's not going to be liking that either. So I actually think that this will be really interesting to see how the Bengals deal with it.
Yeah. And then from the Bengals offense to the Cardinals defense, man, I just kind of can't help but feel like this is going to sound really crazy, but I feel like this game's going to be some wild fucking shootout or something like that, man. I don't know why, but going from the Bengals having a bad defense, Kyler Murray hasn't really been great, but he's had a couple good passing games, or decent passing games against a couple different teams like Seattle, against Baltimore, against Detroit, who's looking to have a really good defense so far this year, right? So against his first and probably worst defense he's played so far this year, right? Maybe he'll ball out a little bit. And then, the Cardinals defense I have no confidence in. So going, with Andy Dalton, right? Like, I don't know, like they got to have some sort of a get right game. I just have this like gut feeling that they got to they're going to get things right eventually and just have one game where they're going to ball out. And I'm looking forward to this actually being like a fucking shootout. And I think that would be a really interesting spin on this game. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but that's what I'm really hoping for. And I think it's not impossible based on the matchups.
So I've got a pretty big potential impediment to a shootout as far as when the Bengals have the ball. John Ross was placed on the IR this week.
Right.
So what that means is he's going to miss a minimum of 8 games. And to fill that roster spot, the Bengals promoted Stanley Morgan from the practice squad. Not the investment banker Stanley Morgan, the wide receiver Stanley Morgan.
Right.
But he may have been an investment banker a couple weeks ago. Who knows?
Who knows?
So the war against attrition that the Bengals seem to fight annually, it's just more of the same this year. AJ Green going down, that seems to be becoming a tradition every autumn. John Ross, same story.
Right.
So Andy Dalton's weapons are dwindling. Without any other help, Tyler Boyd, I think, can only do so much. So that's definitely a down vote on the Bengals offense for the week. They definitely have an uphill climb, and if they keep stacking losses like this with Andy Dalton's contract coming to an end, we may see sooner rather than later the Bengals explore Ryan Finley or somebody like that. If the Cardinals offense gets going and this game gets out of hand really fast, we might see it Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think if the teams both had their full roster of talent, I'd have been tempted by that kind of possible shootout prediction as well. But because they're both missing, even if inconsistent, key offensive attention getters, I'm less convinced that it'll be a shootout, although I wouldn't eliminate it as a possibility. I'm not going to throw a lot of numbers at you guys. I've made that pretty clear. But I will say that I did hear on the crossover Locked On podcast with the Arizona and Cincinnati people talking. Arizona's defense cannot guard tight ends like at all. They've given up 6 touchdowns to tight ends this year, and Andy Dalton throws it to Tyler Eifert every time they get in the red zone. So, presumably, that's like a touchdown at least right there. But I'd say, come on, get Uzomah out of the blocking. Get him running some routes too. He's been great after the catch this year when he's gotten those receptions. I think the team that wins this game is the team that utilizes its running back better. It's going to mean getting them out wide for a few receptions, running some creative screens. Because I don't think either team is going to be really successful running the ball. Arizona would presumably be the favorite because David Johnson's so good, but their offensive line is probably just as bad as Cincinnati's. So I'm looking to see who makes the most creative use of their running back this week. Arizona has a long history of not utilizing David Johnson well, but I think he had 8 or 9 catches last week, so they might, after 3 or 4 years, be just starting to put it together. Should be an interesting matchup. I do think though that Cincinnati, even without John Ross, because of the tight ends and because of Dalton's chemistry with Tyler Boyd, they have potential to get this thing going. Got to watch out for Suggs. He's got 4 sacks, and he's sacked Dalton before, so he wants a little of that old magic back. But they got a shot. I think it'll be a good game. And it's at home. So fans, you don't want to tank yet. Come on, cheer your team on.
Yeah. I guess as bad as the Bengals have been, I guess I didn't expect them to be doing this bad. So I just have it latched on in my head that they got to have a win here coming soon, right? Because after the Cardinals, they have the Ravens, the Jaguars, the Rams, the Ravens again, the Raiders, who haven't been looking shabby. Not great, but not shabby. The Steelers, then Jets, Browns, Patriots. So
when do they play the Dolphins?
It's very late? Second to last game.
Week 16.
So, and then finally the Browns again. So like I said, like I'm looking at the schedule. I'm like, they got to win a game or two, right? There's a couple of them they have in there, and I'm pulling for this being one of them. And like I said, I'm trying to be an optimist and say that maybe this game will be, like I said, a shootout, be exciting, because of two lackluster is an understatement defenses. So, yeah, I actually picked the Bengals on this one, but don't take my word for it. I've been doing awful in the fucking pick'ems this year, like the complete opposite of last year. So,
yeah, don't take Justin's word for it. Take my word for it. I picked the Bengals. Kyler Murray has exactly 0 victories in his professional career. He's going to an enemy stadium. He hasn't figured it out yet, and I'm not going to bet on him until he does.
There you go. Joey?
I wouldn't bet on him, but I did pick the Cardinals. I'm just on the Bengals being a dumpster fire rolling downhill.
Nice. All right, well, let's move on to a more exciting football game this week. In fact, 2 representatives here today to speak for each of their teams individually. Let's get this one going, guys. Should we flip a coin? Who goes first? Heads or tails? I wish I had a coin.
Joey can go first.
There you go. All right. So, Ravens Steelers, guys. What time's that game at?
Sunday at 1.
Sunday at 1 o'clock.
In the old ketchup bottle.
Go ahead, Joey. What you got?
So, it's been an interesting week for the Ravens. Some of the linebacker stuff that we talked about on Tuesday continued. In addition to LJ Fort, spy extraordinaire LJ Fort, the Ravens also signed back veteran linebacker Josh Bynes. And if you're unfamiliar, you're at home, you're thinking, who the fuck is Josh Bynes? That's correct. He was a special teamer for the Ravens the year they won the Super Bowl. Last year, he started 11 games at inside linebacker for the Arizona Cardinals. And with the addition of Josh Bynes, the Ravens cut Tim Williams.
Oh, desperation is a stinky cologne, Joey.
So major overhauls at the linebacker position. I think that all of this is an attempt to get Patrick Onwuasor. I think I'm going to try to say his last name different every week.
Sam calls him Dinosaur because that's what she thinks his name looks like on the back of his jersey.
His nickname's Peanut, and I don't know where it comes from, but that's super easy. So from now on, when I'm talking about Peanut, I'm not talking about Charles Tillman. I'm talking about Patrick Onwuasor. It seems like a lot of this, taking the green dot, things like that, are an attempt to make him more comfortable, simplify the game for the linebackers. So when the Ravens are on defense, that side of the ball has been a mess, man. They've sucked. They got ran all over last week. Brandon Williams didn't practice yesterday. I don't know if he practiced today. So hopefully he's back. This knee thing that has still not been named is lingering around. He's a big part of stopping the run. And the only hope, the biggest hope that I have for the Ravens on defense is Mason Rudolph. If the Ravens game plan can be everything the Bengals did except give up that big pass, I think the Ravens can limit what the Steelers are able to do. They only scored 24 points on Monday night, so it's not like the game was out of reach the whole time, basically, because of how the defense performed.
27.
But it's not like the Steelers offense like lit up the scoreboard. Hopefully communication on the backside of the secondary improves. I think Earl Thomas, just as a presence, deters the deep shot. Mason Rudolph is notoriously been timid with the deep ball. He kind of started to come out of that in the preseason, but I mean, only one big shot last week. We talked about the air yards numbers this week. So I think if the Ravens keep everything in front of them, they clean up their tackling. I have faith in the coaching staff. I think Wink Martindale will be able to get them right. The Steelers are a familiar foe. Pernell McPhee has still been playing very well this year. So there's some bright spots. Marlon Humphrey will likely be following around Juju, which is good news for the Ravens after he tends to perform against big wide receivers. And Wink Martindale ended his press conference this week with his media availability by saying, "We're excited for this one. They know we're coming." So that's a little bit of that Ravens defensive swagger, a la a Rex Ryan or somebody like that. And I'm here for it. Hopefully the Ravens can right the ship a little bit. They're wearing white shirts and purple pants again, which kind of a candy-ass look, if you ask me. I much prefer the black pants, especially when you're going up against probably the second toughest looking uniform in the NFL behind like the Raiders, in my opinion. But yeah.
Gary thinks that the Ravens are going to get it back on track this week.
And then he said, "I hope."
Yeah.
Me too, bro.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at it from a schematic standpoint, aside from last week, you have to give the edge to the Ravens. Mason Rudolph is a brand new quarterback, and the Ravens are historically known for a complex scheme. I don't think that it's fair to say that as a blanket statement now, because the linebackers are a mess, and that's where a lot of all the best communication generally comes from on a defense, because they can talk easily with both the defensive line and the safeties. And Tony Jefferson has been wearing the green dot, and frankly, he's been the one that's blowing the most assignments. So even though I still think it's an advantage for the Ravens, I'm not afraid of it with like the fear and inevitable failure that I think I normally would be. I actually think there's opportunity here. I think that in order to take advantage of that opportunity, it's going to be a lot like last week's conversation. We're going to have to see things from Mason Rudolph that he has not done in a regular season game yet. The Ravens linebackers have been very bad in coverage, but at least according to film study Baltimore guy who watches their games a lot closer than I do, they're worse when the receivers get behind them. When they're in a zone coverage. So Mason Rudolph obviously has not been throwing behind a lot of linebackers. I think you might be able to balance that out with some of that motion stuff. I know that the Ravens are as equipped to defend it as any team in the NFL because they play against Lamar Jackson in practice, but that doesn't make it easy. Like, that doesn't mean they're necessarily good at it. And also, if you stick to it, these plays, they're not like a normal running, power up the middle where it's like 4 yards or bust. Like, you could do it on first and second down, and as long as one of them gets 8 yards, you're still at 3rd and 2. So I'm interested. I mean, Brandon Williams is a big deal. The linebacker situation is a big deal. Like, can Pernell McPhee continue to play as many snaps as he's playing? That's going to be huge. Can somebody take advantage of Anthony Averett? Like, who's he going to guard? Where does he normally line up, Joey? Is he on the outside?
So this year, what Wink likes to do is he likes to cycle 3 corners on the outside between the 2 spots. And without Jimmy Smith, that gets a little hairy because there's a big drop off from the second corner to the third. Maurice Kennedy played well in the slot. I think he and maybe Deshaun Elliott's going to come down in the box a little bit as kind of like a safety type of guy. And I think Averett's going to be on the outside again. Him and Carr and Humphrey will probably to be honest, Humphrey probably played most of the game like he did last week, and Carr and Averett will be the ones kind of flip-flopping some. The Ravens secondary is still very deep, but without Jimmy Smith and without Tavon Young, the top tier talent drop off is big. So they have a lot of guys that are like average to above average, Anthony Levine and Chuck Clark and some of these guys. But you can exploit them still. It's not as solid as it has been in the past. And I think one of the strings that Wink Martindale needs to pull. So last year we weren't really talking about Tony Jefferson stinks in coverage, but he's never been a good. He's never been a above average cover safety. His big strength is run support. And so I think a little bit of Tony Jefferson, if you want to say that he's been exposed this season, falls on scheme. And maybe Wink Martindale needs to do a little bit better job of protecting him. And maybe that was a thing with Weddle being familiar with the system, being able to cover that up a little bit better than Earl Thomas has not been able to do this year.
That's interesting. I have to admit, I'm very curious to see how it ends up playing out with the defensive backs, because I know the temptation is going to be to leave Marlon Humphrey on Juju, but the Steelers did everything last week without Juju being even a factor. So you could just tell me, okay, Marlon Humphrey's better than Juju. He's better than everybody. So he's going to take Juju out of the game. And I can almost just say, like, okay, I don't care. Good. Leave him on Juju, because Mason Rudolph's been throwing deep to the receiver you'd think had the least chance of catching the deep pass, Deontay Johnson. He's not even throwing the deep ball to the guy he did it in college with all the time.
Yeah.
So it's almost tricky right now being like the third team to play him, scheming, because you're like, well, you'd think he'd want to either throw it to their best receiver or the guy he has the most chemistry with. But he's so safe that he basically just only throws it to who's open, which makes it tricky. Basically, you guys are fucked.
And that's the hard part about backup quarterbacks, especially when they first start playing, is that they've got the chemistry with the third wide receiver and the backup tight end and some of these guys that they're more comfortable with. And sometimes it takes them a little while to get that rapport with the big names. But that also means defensively, you may be vulnerable to getting gashed by Rashard Higgins, who's been, who last year was playing with the second string with Baker a shitload in the preseason and stuff like that. So
I will say I saw Juju and Randy come together at the end of Monday night's game, and you could tell, I'm not a lip reader, but I could tell that they were having a moment where it was like, awesome win, don't worry, you're gonna get your receptions, we're gonna get it to you. So I would look this week for Randy Fiegner to reinvent football again, to get Juju involved, even if Marlon Humphrey is guarding him, just based on that interaction. I know he's so good after the catch. He ran like a 4.5 40. Nobody thought he was fast, and yet this dude has like the most 75-yard touchdowns in his first whatever games of anyone. Like, he scores long touchdowns. He runs away from people like Nick Chubb. He doesn't look like he's gonna, but Earl Thomas is gonna give up chasing him after like 3 yards instead of 5. Like, this guy doesn't want any of it.
Yeah, I think for me to close on the defensive side for the Ravens, this is typically a game where I would lean on, Mason Rudolph. I'm going to call him Randolph a zillion times this week. Mason
You'll
Rudolph
know his name after the game.
is a young quarterback, and the Ravens will just confuse him because that's what they do to young quarterbacks. But we've seen Kyler Murray have some success. Baker last year had some success. So this defense is different, and it's a weird feeling. So we'll see. I don't have much confidence in the defense. There's some spots where we have a lot of talent, and I think that'll shine through. But especially as a unit, they're not gelling, and it's concerning.
Well, Tell me about your amazing offense and how it's going to make 8 sacks turn into less than that.
Yeah, so Lamar Jackson's a little bit more mobile than Andy Dalton. For me, offensively, it's the same drum that I've been beating. I do think that the Ravens need to continue to run more. I promise you're not going to have 8 sacks against Lamar Jackson. If you do, I will eat my words physically. You won't sack Lamar Jackson 8 times. So Greg Roman and Hollywood Brown both gave some lip service to the fact that there was a lot available for Hollywood underneath last week that the Ravens did not exploit. The Browns took special care to not get beat deep, and they didn't get beat deep. So there's some stuff to be had, and I apparently the Ravens offense has identified it, and hopefully they are able to exploit an improving but still suspect secondary, and pair it with a dominant power run game. So I think that's the game plan, especially on the road. Rivalry game, we get some smash mouth AFC North football. They don't have to have the pressure of a looming high powered offense on the other side of the ball. Whether you want to call the Browns that or not, I mean, they only had 10 points at halftime, but they definitely stepped on the gas in the second half, and the Ravens got sloppy and shit got out of hand. But it'll be nice to see. Hopefully the Ravens can get back to some ball control, pound the rock, wear a defense down the old-fashioned way. And if that allows Hollywood to get loose, then that's awesome.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of my feelings about this and the Ravens' opponents in general are going to be about the same as what I said about the Browns last week. The Steelers want Lamar Jackson to feel like he can win this game in the air. I think the Steelers' run defense is good, but I don't know that it's good enough. The read option play that the Ravens run, it's like impossible. It's like impossible to stop.
As athletic as Lamar is, that is the difference, between Lamar running that and even Russell Wilson or somebody like that. Like,
at one point in the Browns game, I wrote read option deadly, power running game maiming, and then like in the red zone, he fumbled a handoff, and I was like, maybe that's just how you hope it'll work out. And then they threw a touchdown on the next play, and I was like, fuck. The run game's really good. I think that the difference, and I'll say, so I'm not repeating myself from last week, is the Steelers rush really well at every level, but the Ravens have really good tackles. So that basically means you can write Bud Dupree, our right outside linebacker. You can write him off. Like, he is not going to beat, what's his face?
Stanley.
Oh, shoot. I had it written down. Is it Stan? Yeah, Stanley
Ronnie
is the left
Stanley or
Ronnie Stanley Brown is probably going to like a Hall of Fame. He's going to make Bud Dupree a non-existent. He's just not even going to be there. I think Bud Dupree might still be adequate in the running game. He's done a really good job setting the edge. I'm not going to say he's like blowing up, making tackles, but I think he'll at least hold the structure of the defense adequately. But I think the TJ Watt matchup against Orlando Brown is more interesting. I don't think it's a guaranteed win for Orlando Brown or TJ Watt. So that's something I'm going to be looking for. And then if TJ Watt can win that matchup, can he win it in a structured way that forces Lamar Jackson where the Steelers want him to go? I think it's possible, because I don't think I even care who's on the interior of your line. Like Stephon Tuitt and Cam Hayward and Javon Hargrave, if they're playing their best football, are going to collapse the pocket in a reasonable amount of time. So that's key, because we want him running. I talked about last week. We want him running backwards Not like once he starts going side to side, he can just do whatever he wants. And then secondarily to that, we want him to think like he did last week, because he's going to make the first guy miss, right? TJ Watt's going to run by, and I'm going to get excited. I'm going to stand up out of my seat, and my beer is going to spill on my shirt, and then he's going to miss. But I need Lamar Jackson to stay in there and think, ooh, I can throw an awesome pass. And then TJ Watt can turn around and hit him like really hard, really, really hard. That's like my big hope, because honestly, I think the running game, it's just like he's too athletic. So if you that read option, I don't know how. I mean, Devin Bush is fast, but like fast enough? Like no, nobody's fast enough. My other big matchup thing is, so Minkah Fitzpatrick played against Marquise Brown already. He played against him in a major way. He gave up like an 80-yard touchdown. So he is very familiar with how fast this dude is. So I'm hoping that he learned from it. He's like a Pro Bowl level player. So I think he did. So I think you're going to have to do the underneath stuff. I think that they're going to do a lot. You're not even going to see Minkah on the screen again this week, just like with Cincinnati and John Ross. He's going to be like, is there only 10 men playing defense? I don't know. You're just not even going to notice him, because he's going to be way back there, except for maybe every once in a while they'll sneak him up and try and do some clever shit, because Keith Butler can't help himself. He's a Dick LeBeau, acolyte.
Pittsburgh.
I think Pittsburgh's got to be thinking, in all honesty, like hold them to 24 points. I mean, they're going to sustain drives, right? Like, let's be honest with ourselves. But Lamar Jackson fumbles. I know he hasn't this year, but he did once, and they just he was barely down when it happened. It was against second game, I think. Doesn't matter. We want to be stripping that ball, punching it, stripping it. If you can get a hand on him, karate that shit right out of his hands. And make him throw into windows, make those safeties stay over the top, and have him throwing over a corner and under a safety, and, hope he plays like a young quarterback, and hope you can score 25 points. Good luck.
Yeah. The hard thing defending the Ravens offense, if they will stay committed to running, is the power run game alone is quite formidable. And then the extra wrinkle of Lamar Jackson being involved in the read option stuff and some of the things that they do there, it tips the scales. And one thing I'm going to be looking for in the passing game is, last week we got to see some flashes of Miles Boykin here and there a little bit, especially if Hollywood is commanding a lot of attention, as he very well should. Mark Andrews is probably going to command quite a bit of attention over the middle. So if somebody can emerge as a pass catching option for Lamar, you'd think as a Ravens fan, I'd hope it would be Miles Boykin. Would love to see a big bodied wide receiver get comfortable with Lamar. So hopefully we'll see some growth there. I mean, I'm just ready. I'm ready for rivalry week. I listened to Bart Scott and Willie Colon trade rivalry stories about Hines Ward and Alan Faneca, and oh man, got my Chris Kimoyatu and
yeah. So before Justin jumps in and shits on my parade and talks about how the Ravens are going to win, I'm just going to tell you why you're fucked. Lamar Jackson has never played the Steelers in Pittsburgh. He doesn't know what he's getting into, man. He's walking around all smug with his big old chain and his big old, I can play flag football in this league. Nobody can touch me. Yeah, well, guess what? You're going to get touched. It's going to happen, and you're not going to like it. And that's why you're in trouble. He's going to get rattled, and then he's going to want to make the big play, or vice versa. And he's not going to be right in his mental space yet, because he's still trying to figure it out. And they're not going to do what they need to do, because if they did, they'd probably win every game. But they're not, because they're so enamored with their new toys that they just think they can do it. And Minkah knows that new toy And so you're in deep trouble. Lamar is going to throw 1 interception. He's going to fumble twice. That would be thrice turnovers. That's 3 for those of you who don't speak Latin. Just kidding. It's not Latin, I don't think. You're in big trouble. Steelers, 28. Ravens, 22.
Another concerning note on the defensive side for the Ravens, thrice would equal how many turnovers the Ravens have forced this year. 2 picks and a fumble recovery. That's it.
9 for my Steelers, which is 2/3 of the way to where they did the season last year. Opportunistic. Tell me you're picking the Steelers, Justin. Don't screw this up.
So I actually... All right, so with this one, I couldn't help but not pick the Ravens because to me it makes the most logical sense. However, I want the Steelers to win as much as obviously that just makes me throw up in my mouth a little bit. The reason why is because that would put the Ravens and the Steelers both at 2-3. And that would give the Browns a chance to get the lead ahead in the division, right? To come up.
Now you're thinking.
So, in the pick'ems, I did pick the Ravens because my pick'em score is failing, and I need to pull that up a little bit more. But I want more than anything for the Steelers to knock the Ravens down even farther in the division because I think they're actually a bigger contender. So, with that, you guys have anything else you want to add about those games or that game?
No, that's a good who to root for. I think all the teams, especially late in seasons, when your team's in the hunt, and the Baltimore Ravens will post a who to root for in the AFC games this week.
Right.
There you go, man. If you're a Browns fan, and you're going to be rooting for Pittsburgh to drag the Ravens down. Both of them are 2-3, and then on Monday Night Football, after the dust settles in Pittsburgh, you know what you've got to do to keep that division lead.
Expect a battle. Expect it to be a mess because this is a huge division rivalry and it's going to go right for somebody or anybody.
And if Juju wants to test Marlon Humphrey, he can get these hands.
Dude, did you see what Juju did to, speaking of Vontaze
around his throat area?
Dude, you remember what Juju did to Vontaze Burfict, don't you?
Vontaze might not remember it.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
It would be straight thugging. Bart Scott said the Steelers are the only team he's ever hated. And a lot of people ask him when he went to the Jets if he hated the Patriots. And he said, no, I didn't hate the Patriots because when the Patriots beat you, they beat you schematically. But when the Steelers beat you, they beat your body. So some thug shit is what he called the Ravens-Steelers rivalry. So looking forward to another chapter of AFC North thug shit.
AFC North thug shit. That should be the new name of the podcast. Just AFC North thug shit.
We'll all get grills.
For sure. Well, I'm not against it.
Here's to the renewing the rivalry, even at 1-3 and seemingly down. We're gonna
couple second-year quarterbacks.
And don't expect me to throw numbers at you when the Steelers win on Tuesday. There's going to be no numbers. There's going to be all gloating and burning you right down. You're going to go into your bedroom and cry to your wife afterwards.
That'll be 2 straight weeks.
I don't even know who I am anymore.
All right, let's move on to the last game, the Monday Night Football game, 8:15 on Monday night. Browns versus the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the entire, I don't know, most people are high on the 49ers right now, right? If we look on the pick'ems, they're winning 60-40 as far as, favorite to win. Do you know what the Vegas is for that one, Joey?
The Vegas.
The Vegas is. Well, while you're looking that up, I'll talk about it a little bit. So the 49ers have only played 3 teams so far. They're coming off of a bye, guys, nice and fresh. But Chad did bring up a good point earlier that gives them a lot of time to prepare and adjust for the Browns, which with someone like Kyle Shanahan is a fucking eternity to adjust and get your offense right for something like that. The San Francisco 49ers, they have right now the number one offensive line in the NFL. Now, is that a product of the teams they've played against? I don't know. They actually have a pretty fucking good offensive line. But, of course, as much as Joey would disagree, that's something that you cannot discredit is the teams that they've played against. But you have the elusive style of, or not the elusive, but the creative, I guess, style of Kyle Shanahan's offense. The running game is phenomenal because of the offensive line. I think the Browns are going to have their work cut out for them, and I think this is going to be a good litmus test to figure out who each, or let's say a better litmus test, right? Because for the 49ers, are they the real deal? The Browns, are they the real deal? Kind of a thing. The 49ers defense kind of scares me. Again, they haven't played anyone that fantastic, but offense-wise, but, you know, they've put the hurting on some people. So, I don't know. I'm kind of concerned from that aspect. What do you guys think about the 49ers?
I'm getting a little bit tired of you shitting on the teams they've played against, since one of them is my Pittsburgh Steelers, who are going to finish ahead of your crap Browns in the division this year. But I will say this, their offensive line is excellent.
Right.
But in the actually it was before the Steelers game, their best offensive lineman, Joe Staley, got hurt. And if I remember correctly from researching, because I do tons of research, guys, the matchup, Joe Staley is their left tackle, which means he would be lining up in the natural position against Myles Garrett, which means instead of Joe Staley, they're probably still playing this undrafted dude named School. He did okay against Bud Dupree. I don't expect anything to be okay against Myles Garrett at all. I think Myles Garrett's going to make him wish he played tennis. So that's going to be a big issue for those 49ers offensive linemen. I will say, though, that if you want to talk about, we played this team and that team, I think right now San Francisco is basically running the Rams offense, but better. So you did a good job against the Rams, but I don't want you to get lulled into a false sense of security. No. 49ers offense has been really dynamic this year, and frankly, teams they've played all rushed the quarterback well. They played Cincinnati, Seattle, and Pittsburgh. So it's not like you're bringing some whole new concept to the table. Like, we suck the quarterback, but nobody else does. Like, all their plays look the same. So it's very difficult, even if you can win athletically, to know who you're supposed to be going after once you win your matchup on the defensive line, or if you're a linebacker. Right. So, I mean, you know, the Browns have done a good job with this stuff. The Ravens have a kind of tricky offense, and they did well. Although, you know, they still gave up 25 points, but they did pretty well, better than most everybody else, and they did well against the Rams, too. Don't think this is going to be easy. Don't think you're going to go into San Fran and just be walking all over this offense. I would expect that you need your offense to not be any to see. Like, you're going to need to go in there and score some points if you want to win this game. I would expect 20 is the minimum you give up.
Yeah, so the Jimmy Garoppolo has not thrown for more than 300 yards this season. His first game he threw for only 166 yards, right? So they're heavily reliant on the run game, and they are heavily reliant on those short passes to dice you up. And then every so often, they'll, you know, maybe he'll throw a big one. But yeah, it's all about the short game. But Shanahan just has a way to make it happen. George Kittle has been, I don't want to say silent, but he has not been what I would say people have seen from him last year, especially against defenses that are not very good. What, he's only had like 50 yards every game. 50 yards a game, is that what you would call the elite level tight end that, you know, a season ago put up over 1,000 yards?
First of all, George Kittle is a very stout run blocker also. Okay. And for a team that is very committed to the run and very good at running the football with multiple people, he's absolutely a factor. I'll also have you know
okay, I meant in the past game.
That George Kittle is the highest graded football player in the NFL by PFF this year, with a grade of 92.7. So across all positions, George Kittle has the highest grade.
So I'm not...
He's the valedictorian, Justin. What do you say to that?
I've had my suspicions about PFF. I don't know, man. Sometimes I think they have a little bit of a hype train on. He's caught for 50 yards across or on each of his 3 games. That's it. Compared to the
So he had a third of the
that he
team's
had
passing yards in week 1.
Okay.
How many touchdowns does he have? 3, 4?
0.
He's had like 3 called back. He had 3 called back in the first couple weeks. He didn't have any against the Steelers. I would say this, Justin.
So So go ahead.
I would say that you're right. He hasn't made as much of an impact this year as last year, but it's because teams are really, really hyper focused on him, and I would expect your team to do the same thing. George Kittle led the entire NFL in yards after the catch last year, which means he is both fast and strong. So that means Cleveland's going to pay a ton of attention to him. I mean, the Steelers gave up like 3 catches for 59 yards. So it's like, well, that seems okay, but that means each time he caught the ball, it was for like 20 yards. He's a big bad man.
I like how I say that George Kittle has been relatively silent this year, and you guys turn it into Justin thinks George Kittle is fucking garbage. But anyways, so George Kittle, like I said, has been relatively silent this year. As far as their other receivers, I don't think that they have a whole lot of talent from those positions. The running backs individually, I don't know that those guys would go on to other teams and be as successful as they have on the 49ers. So much of what this team rests on is the scheme that Kyle Shanahan is able to come up with to trick defenses and to trick teams, right? So if the Browns can either outplay, out-scheme, or, just play better, I guess, than what Shanahan can expect or can, scheme for, I think that's really their only shot, their best shot, not their only shot.
Yeah, it's a tall task, however you want to look at it.
What I'm trying to say is the Browns are playing against Kyle Shanahan this week.
Especially with the secondary still not being 100% yet. All right, the Niners are more than George Kittle.
Right.
The Niners are 4th in the league in yards per game. They're 3rd in the league in points per game. And they're 2nd in the league in rush yards a game, 175 rush yards a game. That's only second to the Ravens, who have Lamar Jackson running for 50 to 100 yards a game, right? So they're going to score points offensively. And whether that's George Kittle or whether that's Matt Breida or any of these receivers that I don't know any of their names, Pettis, and I don't even know who else is over there. But they're making shit happen. And
Deebo Samuels.
And the defense has been overachieving
for sure.
At least compared to expectations. Richard Sherman seems to be having really kind of a resurgence after maybe a bit of a down year last year. This is a tall task. This offense is very, very good.
Right. Should we go to the other side? Defense for other offense versus defense?
Go ahead. What were you going to say, Justin? Justin was going to tell me how wrong I am.
I was going to tell you how wrong you are.
Right,
I was going to tell you how a lot of what you're saying to try to say that I was wrong are things that I had already said. That their offensive line is fantastic, which is what leads to their success in like the run game, right? So, like you guys even said before with the pass rush, right? This isn't something that's new to what the 49ers have done so far. So they already know how to do that. So like I've been saying, right, that it's all going to be on the defensive backs and the linebackers against whatever the pass scheme that the Shanahan comes up with. Because, right, never mind. So anyways, let's move on to talk about the defense. The 49ers defense and the Browns offense. So as far as the Browns offense goes, Jarvis Landry is out with a concussion. He got a concussion at the end of the game last game with the Ravens.
He's out ruled out already for the game?
If you have a concussion, you're out for at least the next game. Isn't that the rule?
No.
It's all flexible. It's all just
I don't know that I've ever seen someone
case.
Get a concussion and then come back the very next game. Is that something? I don't know.
It's not necessary. Every concussion is different, and the protocol they have playing on Monday night as something that's in their favor. They have an extra day to hope to get him back.
On one of my fantasy teams, he was listed as questionable, and I think he might have even been a limited participant in practice. And one of the rules is that you have to do like running drills for a certain amount of time without getting like a headache. So that means he's at least going through the protocol. It is possible for him to play.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I just never, paid that a close attention to it, but I always, every time I've seen someone get a concussion, they were always out the next game.
He could play.
It's also his first concussion, and generally, whether or not that's good science, they treat the first one as less of a big deal than the subsequent ones.
Whether or not that's good science. Yeah. I'm trying to look up emergency real quick, trying to see if that's what it says. Earlier this week, I thought it said out, but either way, Higgins was elevated again to questionable, so we'll see if he remains questionable until game day again. But I can only hope that we could have him back. The 49ers defense, like you said, has overachieved a little bit this year. I know I didn't expect a lot coming into the season from the 49ers when I watched them the 2 times that I watched them. But they played very, very well. So I think the Browns offense just has to stick with what they did last game, man. I think the Browns offense has to stick with, handing the ball off to Nick Chubb. They have to stick with the short, quick passes to kind of feel the defense out and then see if they have the room and the ability for the long passes, right? So what do you guys think?
Yeah, so Odell Beckham has faced off against Richard Sherman, I think, once. I think he was a rookie. And one thing that Richard Sherman's going to do, Richard Sherman loves to be like a zone type of corner. And OBJ is going, if he's going to thrive, I think, in this matchup, which another thing is Richard Sherman only plays left cornerback, so you can move Odell away if that's what your heart desires, if you're Freddie Kitchens. But some of the comeback stuff, some of the slant type of stuff will be open, and Odell Beckham is not a one-trick pony. He has shown that he can take these short passes, whether it's a screen or a hitch or quick slants, and take them the distance. So I do think that that's a potentially volatile situation, keeping the long game in view for the Browns. Win or lose, I know it's easy to say the right things if you're Odell Beckham. He is not going to be happy with 2 catches for 20 yards long. I do think that when the Browns looked best last week, which is also when their offense looked best this year, Jarvis was the focal point in the passing game. Some of the stuff that he allows you to do, he's got some more time with Baker. He's been in the offense longer. So it'll be interesting whether Jarvis plays or not. But this team has to be balanced. They can't get carried away with the pass game, just like the Ravens. Nick Chubb's a fucking workhorse. Haven't used this much this year, but he's a grown-ass man. So they need to feed Nick Chubb on the road. And also, offensively, I mean, there's nothing wrong offensively. If last week was the beginning of them turning a page, then they're fine. If they can have the creative offense, run the ball, they'll be good.
Isn't Antonio Callaway supposed to be coming back this week as well?
Yes. He is off suspension. He's
done suspension.
Activated. I would say, to me, this is where the really big difference, if you want to talk schedules, go. So the 49ers played Tampa Bay, and Jameis Winston is a mess some of the time, including that game. Then they played Cincinnati. I think we've covered Cincinnati enough. Right? Good.
Yep.
Then they played Pittsburgh in Mason Rudolph's first ever start. So if Cleveland can just not be dumbasses, like I really think that this is where they're playing against themselves. Like Cleveland's offense is playing against itself. Like San Francisco is not inept. Like they're a classy outfit. They're probably right there in the middle of the league or slightly above average. They've got Richard Sherman. They don't have like a weak position group. They're just fine. But come on, you've got Nick Chubb. You've got an offensive line that's definitely below average, but dude, all you don't need to do that much. Like, so it's fine. And you've got crazy position talent. And frankly, I'm not even concerned that the passing game was focused on Jarvis Landry last week because that's the beauty of it. They're the same. Like, if they focus on Jarvis, you throw to Odell. They do all the same shit, except Jarvis is maybe like a little more physical breaking tackles, and Odell has like slightly stickier fingers. Whatever. Like, they're awesome. They're both awesome. If you don't cover that short stuff, they can both beat you deep. Odell's probably slightly better deep with the contested catches. If you get Higgins back, he's awesome deep. Your offense is incredibly well balanced as long as Baker isn't running out of the pocket too early and doing other things like that. I think actually, and I don't know that Joey's going to love hearing this because this isn't what he's going to be used to hearing, but like, I don't think the Ravens pass rush is actually particularly great. I think San Francisco is going to be a little bit better. So it's going to be a little bit more challenging for Baker this week, but he does have one solid week of good behavior under his belt. He's building a habit. So if he can just stay in the pocket and they can just run their offense, I really think that that's the biggest advantage. Like, I really think that they could be able to put up points. Now, to take it to an esoteric, we're now going to talk briefly about the Browns as a franchise because we like talking about our lovable losers possibly approaching winner status. This is a big time travel away game going across the country situation. This is when you need to keep people under control. I don't know what day they're traveling out west. Are they letting these guys go out at night? What's everybody doing? Like, are the Browns going to put their best performance forward traveling all the way to the West Coast for a Monday night game, weird kind of schedule? That's the question. Like, if they play their best game, I think they're probably a bit better than San Francisco, but I don't know if I'm betting on that.
Yeah, I think as far as that goes, this is the biggest mental challenge as far as like maybe complacency type of stuff goes since week 1. So the Browns finally did what everybody expected the Browns to do last week, which was make the rest of the division look bad. Baker had a good game. Chubb had a good game. They were dominant against the Ravens. They felt in control of that game the whole time. And so since that home opener with Tennessee coming in, this is the first time that they've been talked about well in the media this year for a week. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond to that. Part of one thing that I think you get used to, the Browns are in the same mold mentality-wise, I think, because of Baker, that we're used to with the Ravens and the Steelers. I know as far as being a Ravens fan goes, I'm more comfortable when the Ravens are underdogs. I like that role. They embrace that role. And I think the Browns do a little bit of the same thing. It's one thing that Bill Belichick is really good at, making the Patriots feel slighted, even though they're the most winningest franchise ever.
He's a negative Nancy.
When there's something to give you that edge, it's better. So it'll be interesting to see if the Browns can maintain the edge and the focus and the fuck you mentality to everybody that they brought to Baltimore last week. now that things are kind of swinging in their favor a little bit more. So they're a young team, and the franchise is learning how to win, and this something like this is just a part of it. So we'll see how it goes. Like Chad said, it's them against themselves, I think, for the most part.
Who are you guys picking to win?
All that being said, the 49ers are undefeated, and this is the Jimmy G revenge game against Justin. So I'm picking Jimmy G and the gold mining 49ers to win. I'll say 27-24.
Jimmy G is a known listener of the AFC Northcast. He has tweeted to our account, which I just learned we had, that he uses our podcast to scout. Used it to scout against the Steelers. I wish I had lied more. So he definitely has it in for Justin. There's no doubt about it. I'm picking San Francisco because I think the Steelers are better than the Browns. And so the Browns will have to lose by more than 2 points. So I'm saying what seems reasonable. San Francisco 51, Browns 9.
Actually, if I stay true to my picks for the score tiebreaker, I have the game as Browns 69, 49ers 69. So,
for the record, if I stay true to my picks, I picked the Browns to win this game at the beginning of the year. And it was one of my key games because it's their first big away game, traveling a lot against a decent team. So this is one of the character building games, Justin. But 51-2.
So I obviously I'm picking the Browns on this one. I don't know that the 49ers, I don't know, man. I don't think they've played enough talent quite yet. I think the Browns have just started to figure out their offensive scheme. If they can stay with what they kind of did during the Ravens game, and I think if they carry that forward, then the 49ers are going to have a hell of a wake-up call against Jimmy G, because he's a fraud. So there's that.
Well,
him and
Miles
George Kittle
get a couple shots at him.
So that's all the games, I guess. Let's wrap up by talking about our picks real quick. So let's talk about our mistress pick real quick. Let's start off with Joey. What you got?
Alrighty. My mistress for the week,
as he quickly peruses,
is the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah.
At home, coming off a big win against a team that everybody was starting to say, hey, look out for the Colts. Maybe Jacoby Brissett is pretty good. Maybe this defense is pretty good. Last week, the Raiders put like 35 points on the Colts in Indianapolis last week. Coming back home to the friendly confines of the Black Hole against the Bears, who are starting Chase Daniel, his first start of the season because Mitchell Trubisky is broken. This game could be like 6-3, but I'm on the Raiders this week to beat the Bears. I'm one of 15.92% on Yahoo Pick'em leagues.
Nice. What you got, Chad?
Well, I picked the Bears to win that game because Mitch Trubisky's not playing, so they'll be fine. I'm taking the Kansas City Chiefs as my mistress this week. They're playing Sunday night, so I don't have to worry about the game competing with another game I have interest in. And obviously the Steelers-Ravens is like two of the biggest games of the year, assuming my team makes the playoffs, and this year could be the two biggest games of the year. I don't know. The Chiefs are coming off a suspect victory over the Lions, who might be startlingly competitive, and they're playing against an Indianapolis team that's been a little bit chippier than maybe some people expected without Andrew Luck. So I'm looking for I'm looking for my boy Patrick Mahomes to come in and just start slinging it because I don't think he's played his best game yet this year, and I think it's coming. I think it's coming. So back to my Chiefs.
Man, I'm surprised.
Wait till Tyreek comes back.
That'll help.
I'm surprised neither of you guys picked the Jaguars versus Carolina. I thought we were jagging off, man.
Well, that was my game for I don't know who's going to win, and it would have been my mistress pick if it wasn't at 1 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to watch a second of it.
All right. Well, then, I guess I will give you my mistress pick. So mine's actually going to be Green Bay at Dallas. And I picked Green Bay because I'm the original Dak Prescott hater.
Dallas. Yep.
First off. Second off, fuck the Cowboys. And third off, I'm going to keep riding with this. If not anything else but to just troll the shit out of Joey. But the Cowboys haven't played anybody impressive yet. So, look, man. The Packers, I will say this, though, right? The Packers are not what people expected them to be this year. They're doing significantly better, and I love that kind of hype train, which is kind of strange to say because the Packers kind of have this innate hype train just because Aaron Rodgers is with them. But for me personally, someone that tries to look at things without like the hype attached to it, except for the Browns, right? I'm impressed by what Green Bay has done so far. I like it, and I want to see more of it. And I want to see them just fucking destroy the Cowboys. So,
great choice for a mistress game. I will almost assuredly watch that game at 4:25 if I have the opportunity to be watching football. It's two potential playoff teams with some star players and deceptively good defenses. Should be fun.
Yeah, and your alternative is watching Joe Flacco, and I'm done watching Joe Flacco now that I don't have to.
Nice. All right, let's talk about our heartbreak picks. Joey started off again. Let's just round the table. Oh, also, actually, I wanted to bring up too. Way to go with that mistress pick, Chad. 99-1 is the Chiefs over the Colts.
The mistress pick isn't about it being a tricky one. It's not. It's about who you want to watch.
That's not. But I just thought it was kind of funny because it's like a 99-1. I don't know. To me,
I want to see him play well.
Yeah. All right, Joey, go ahead.
My heartbreak pick is the drug that I can't quit, the Atlanta Falcons, going to the other drug that I can't quit, the Houston Texans. Are either of these teams good? Possibly.
I don't know.
Are either of these teams pretty bad?
Definitely.
Possibly. So, I picked the Texans. To me, it's absurd how heavily favored they are on the Yahoo Pick'em. It's like 89%. Deshaun Watson, I'm pretty sure he's just going to die on the field this year. They don't protect him at all. Bill O'Brien, he stinks. And all that said, I'm picking the Texans because I can't trust the Falcons anymore. I simply cannot do it.
Dude, the Falcons lost at home where they're supposed to be good to the Tennessee Titans. And I've made my opinion on the Tennessee Titans known loud and clear on this podcast time and time again. I will not pick Atlanta to win another game until they win 2 games in a row. You heard it here first, and I'm probably lying.
I had Atlanta -4 last week. I was like, oh, they're at home. Tennessee's coming.
Yeah. I would have.
They lost by 14 points last week. They scored 10 points at home.
And it wasn't even competitive. It was like...
No, it was never close.
Justin, you should probably go next because I am going to steal your game probably.
Oh. No, probably not. Mine was actually Joey's mistress. So Chicago and Oakland, I have no fucking idea, man. Like, what is Oakland? Does anybody know? I sure as fuck don't. But if they're good, I still don't like John Gruden, so there's that. As far as Chicago goes...
Oh, man, knock on wood if you're with me, bro. Come on, how can you not like John Gruden?
That fucking... I don't know. He's like a walking gag reel, you know? I don't know. But anyways, as far as Chicago goes, man, I wanted their offense to be really good. You know, their defense obviously is what it is, but I wanted to see something better from them, and they've just been such a disappointment so far. Now Chase Daniels is going in. Sure, he cleaned up nicely for part of that game, but I don't know, man. I really have no idea. So I think that it's absurd that people are so far on Chicago because Oakland has not been doing that poorly. But I ended up picking Chicago because I just went with a safe pick. And Khalil Mack.
Yeah, I'll take Chicago. Dude, Oakland's not good. They're not good.
Okay. You heard it from Chad. You heard it here. Oakland is not good.
They don't have their safety, Salmon. They don't have Perfect, who can't not hit a dude in the head. Name someone else on their defense. Exactly. Moving on to my game. I can't believe you didn't take it. I'm taking Jacksonville and Carolina. You got Minshew.
I feel good about that one. So
you got the Minshew experience. You got the Kyle Allen.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, you got two exciting rookie quarterbacks doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Then you got two young running backs that are both fun. Leonard Fournette, and you got what's his face, McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey. I almost said Eddie McCaffrey. Dated. I'm old. Check out the thinning hairline. This is going to be a fun game, and I am not confident. I'm just not confident. I think I picked the Jaguars, but I don't even remember what I do. I think I picked the Jaguars.
I picked the Jaguars because I'm jagging off.
Me too. Minshew has crazy levels of testosterone flowing through his veins at all times. He wants to be down by 3 with 38 seconds left on the 35-yard line. He needs it. He needs it in his bones. He wants to go into that locker room, get into his jockstrap, and do those exercise bands like he used to do. Dance it out, Minshew. Dance it out. But I'm not confident because that other kid, Kyle Allen, he's fun.
Yeah, Kyle Allen's been doing all right. I don't know. With Gardner Minshew, it's weird because I'm all about him, and I think this is awesome. Did you hear that Jacksonville Stadium is giving out fake mustaches and stuff too, and bandanas?
Love that.
Yeah, they're totally all in on it. Which yeah, that's awesome, man. Go for it. But I can't help but get this weird feeling that we're just getting another slightly different evil twin brother of Blake Bortles, where he's doing statistically he's doing all right, I guess, but somehow they're winning games, right? And then all of a sudden it's just all going to come crashing down in 2 years or whatever, maybe even next year, maybe before the end of the season, who knows? But while we're on it, I'm fucking riding the train. So
to be fair to Gardner Minshew, Blake Bortles was not winning games his rookie year.
Well, yeah. What was it, the second or third year that
I think they were pretty bad,
together?
Except for that AFC Championship year. I think they've been pretty bad.
Yeah, but people had this what's the word? This almost confusion kind of about Blake Bortles. Is he good? Is he bad?
Because he was a higher draft pick than Gardner.
Yeah, Gardner was a 6th-round draft pick.
He had this draft position linked to him, and
fair.
I don't know. It also speaks on the Jaguars as a franchise, but
fair.
Duval
speaks to how awesome they are because right now, Gardner slaying it.
Yep. Wow.
And his dad's going to be there, shaped like a refrigerator in the stands. Have you seen that guy yet, Justin?
No, I've
Gardner
not.
Minshew's dad?
No, I'm about to look it up. Have you seen the pictures of him with Uncle
Google
Rico?
That shit. Yeah.
You know what's even better is that people were saying that Nick Foles looks like Napoleon Dynamite and Gardner Minshew looks like Uncle Rico. So that's perfect. It's awesome. I love it. All right, guys. Anything else?
I got nothing. I think the Steelers are obviously the best team in the AFC North, and they're about to prove it.
This was a long preview episode. So let's
divisional rivalry.
So let's get out of here. Thanks for listening. If you've been listening this long, if you haven't, then fuck you, because you're not hearing me say that to you anyways. So what does it matter? Yeah, join the podcast, man. And when I say that, I mean watch us live, interact with us, comment, talk, have fun. If you can't catch us live because you have other obligations, well, then free up your fucking schedule. And if not, then always feel free to vote on the polls, comment on our, Facebook, tweet at us, the Twitter, Instagram. We're all over that stuff too. So we'll be putting some polls up this week for who you think is going to win, who not. I noticed I do that to Chad a lot. Like I have this like pregnant pause or whatever, and then Chad like goes to say something, and then I just start talking again, and he gets so fucking mad. What were you gonna say, Chad? Go for it.
Tune in Tuesday to hear Joey cry, and Justin apologize to all of our fans that listen to the podcast not live.
Yeah, and to George Kittle apparently. Watch George Kittle just fucking have like 200 yards this game just to like.
Can't wait.
I know. Now the only thing I'm gonna be rooting for in that game is for George Kittle to get shut down. Like the Browns could lose like 53-2, right? And I still would be like, well, Kittle, he's just nothing this year. Anyways, that's it though, guys. We're wrapping this up. We're gonna put some polls up so you guys can vote on them again. Keep voting in those. That's always fun. And join us Thursday live. I'm sorry, Tuesday, live, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Listen to the podcast. Tell your friends, tell your family. Make a community. Let's talk about some fucking AFC North football, guys. But till then, see you next time.
Hey, do you know what college Danny Woodhead went to?
What's up?
No.
Chadron State, man. Knock on wood if you're with me.
All right. Take it easy, everybody.